Josh Raven here with the Daily Dot at ELEAGUE. We're just wrapping up the final of week 4, I believe, Fnatic versus FaZe, joined by Thooorin, newest addition to the analyst desk. And I guess first off, we will talk about that final. Pretty disappointing showing from FaZe, considering what they did in the group stage and that second game against Fnatic indeed. What did you make of that performance from FaZe?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is FaZe hasn't been so great on LAN before this Cologne qualifier. They've kind of been up and down all year. People have been wondering before Keo joined, like maybe that team would actually just disband. I actually heard rumors that maybe the org was just going to buy someone better, you know, and that experiment would be ended. But after the Cologne qualifier and then the group stage games here, they looked like they were getting better and better. They looked like a legit team. Like actually in the series against Dignitas, I thought they were a lot better than Dignitas. And in the cash game there, they had really positive signs. Like on their terrorist side, they were like controlled. They looked like they read the defense very well. If anyone tried to push up on them, they always exploited that and punished it. Well, Fnatic didn't take any note of that. They actually just pushed up all the time. JW did JW things, you know, just pushing in, flashing himself in, and it felt like he got a kill every time he did it. So I think FaZe, they started to come back towards the end, and we did see they are a stronger CT side team than a T side team, but I mean, they're not at the level of a Fnatic, that goes without saying, especially after these 2 Cobblestone games I've seen here. Like, there's still a gap between those 2 teams. So I think it's overall good stuff from FaZe, because I think individually everyone got going this week, but as an actual team, I don't think they're going to contend for titles for a while.
Do you think this final kind of points to Fnatic being just god tier again, or FaZe kind of dropping off and being less? Like, who do you think, was it more Fnatic being good or FaZe being bad?
I don't think FaZe was that bad, actually, to be honest. Like, it sounds strange because obviously they could have gotten like 15-0'd on their T side of Cobble, which is supposed to be where you're meant to get rounds, but I thought FaZe was pretty good all the time. Like, I think Fnatic was just, very, very good. And the thing that was so scary about Fnatic being good is, first of all, Olofmeister was good almost every map of the tournament, but as a team as well, they just had that swagger like instantly again. It's almost like there was no kind of like charge up or warming up period. Somehow, Olofmeister came back and then it made other people come alive. You know, suddenly Crims was having a half-decent game instead of having those bad games we saw before. JW was a lot more improved, so I don't know what it is in that sense, but I feel like, Fnatic, it sounds kind of premature to say it, but I feel like they're already back, like about to be poised to take the top spot again.
Well, you say take the top spot, looking forward to the major coming up in just a couple of weeks, I believe. Looks like at the moment it could be Fnatic all the way. Are there any other teams you'll be looking out for, maybe Luminosity, former champions, or anything like that?
Well, I mean, the craziest thing about that major is that obviously, actually in the group stage, Luminosity, Fnatic, and FaZe and G2 are all in the same group from what I remember. I think that was the group that was drawn. So on the one hand, I guess there's a positive sign for the other teams who want to win the tournament. Like if you're someone like Luminosity, you actually maybe could help knock Fnatic out in the group stage, and then, you know, FaZe gets the right map with the randomizer. Hey, it could happen. A miracle like that could happen. We saw FaZe win on Mirage early in the tournament. But I think also it could go the other way, unfortunately. Like we could have a scenario where like G2 or maybe Luminosity gets upset on a map, and then suddenly Fnatic has an easier route to the final. For me, I think Luminosity is the obvious team that should be able to potentially challenge for the major, not just because they're the champions of the previous major, but it feels like they've gotten better and better over all the maps. So at the moment, I feel like it might be the one time in history where a team can go against Fnatic and say, we have the advantage in the map pool. And also, I think actually a downside for Fnatic as we look forward to the next tournaments is that we didn't have to see them play Nuke today. It would have been the 3rd map, but they haven't played it yet, even with Venton, and even worse, Inferno was an amazing map for them. They had won something like, I think it was like 17 out of 20 games on that map, so they were unbelievable on Inferno, and that's gone now. So Nuke used to be their permaban when it was a CT-sided map. It's not a map they've ever particularly liked. So yeah, I have my concerns in that respect. Like I don't think they'll have the same map pool they used to do before. So yeah, at the moment I would still put my money on Luminosity. I think that's the safe pick. But Fnatic at the moment, I mean, they look scary enough that maybe they can get to that level in that amount of time, even because obviously the ZCS, then the major. I think there's still time to do it even.
Yeah, and I quickly wanted to touch on something you mentioned today, I believe, on Twitter or something, that this is the first major with no full North American lineup, leading to obviously the idea of importing players and stuff like that. Do you think that could be in the future of CSGO? Obviously, Europe is the dominant region. Do you think you see more North American teams delving into that market?
Definitely. In fact, it actually would have happened already. Like there was a few people where there were European players who were like good, but maybe the best team in their country didn't have an offer for them at the time. And I put these people in contact with some of the NA orgs. Some of them now have joined NA orgs. And actually the problem was at the time, some of those Europeans, it was kind of like in League of Legends actually. Even if you can get a more money going over to the NA side of things, sometimes you think to yourself, yeah, but if I get the right team in Europe, it'll be better. So people were having that mentality, you know, they didn't want to invest and go all into going to NA if the team they'd be on would be like a decent NA team, but not going to compete for majors. So that initially was the thing holding them back, but actually that's kind of the craziest part of the players that have ended up over there now for me, which is like Pimp, coming from like 3rd best Danish team. Mixwell was not even a factor in Europe. Cadian has actually been one of the best players for TSM this week. Again, not even on the third best Danish team. So actually what's crazy is it shows how deep the talent pool in Europe is, that we're actually essentially getting tier 3 talents, and they're becoming some of the best players of the teams they're going over to. So I think it will continue, but it's more a natural progression for me of how much money's in the NA scene. Because you saw at the moment, it's almost a joke that like anyone who has ever played at a pro level in NA, if you're still trying to compete now, you can get a full-time salary. So there's so many teams, it's so deep, that as a result, eventually there's going to be more Europeans who figure out, right, what's the point? Like, I give you an example, okay? Someone like Bondik, who recently went to Hellraisers, maybe he doesn't have great English, maybe that's the reason why he wouldn't, but if I was him and I could like advise him as an agent, I'd tell him, listen, mate, Hellraisers is going to be all right. But if I just show people like your resume and I show what you've done in the majors you've gone to, I can probably get you 3 times as much in some NA team. Like, you want to go there, you want to live there for a year, have some fun, earn money. That could happen, I think, in the future. So I think actually that probably is the future. And at the moment, I mean, there's not enough NA stars, I think, to make 10 teams like that. You know, you probably have to look to Europe.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen in the past, especially in League of Legends, that there's a debate that this can kind of ruin the national talent or the regional talent. Do you think the same thing could be an issue in North America? Obviously, they haven't produced a great deal of superstars already, but could this hinder the scene more than it helps?
To some degree. Like, the big problem I see is that because there's so many European talents, the ideal way to do it is actually the way they're doing it right now. Like, you get a Mixwell and you say, right, you're going to be the star player, you're going to get the AWP every round, and we're kind of buying you for the star factor. That's actually where I could see it being worrying, because the whole point of buying talent like that is it's kind of like you know what you're getting. Whereas when you get the young NA player and you're trying to bring him up, you're actually not sure how he's going to perform. It's more of a risk, actually, believe it or not, to develop the domestic talent in that sense. But I don't think it's like as big a concern as League of Legends, because to me, the big concern about League of Legends was it used to only be 8 spots in NALCS. And so that meant if you did get the European, you were knocking out all these NA players. Whereas the key thing for me in Counter-Strike is we have an open circuit, and different teams can qualify for the tournaments. Like, it's like the same teams every single season of NALCS like it is. You know, a totally different team can qualify. Optic can qualify for this major, Cloud9's out. So there's more teams, there's more money to be spread around, and it seems like the money's going up. So I think you can actually, believe it or not, be in like the 9th best NA team and probably still make a decent salary. So ultimately, if you add it all up, I think eventually the top talent will come through. I mean, he's not a star player, but I think actually the arrival of Slemmy's kind of shown that, because here's someone where he wasn't on anyone's radar, but another area where NA lacks is in-game leaders. And so they tried nothing out. There wasn't really anyone else available. Like, you don't want to just go for like an FNS type pickup where they're not really that good as well. So they thought, you know what, we need an in-game leader. We'll just gamble completely, take a total unknown. It worked out this time, won't every time, but I mean, I think that will continue to happen now.
Okay, and we'll bring things back to ELEAGUE to end things off. There's 2 weeks left of group play. Okay. I can't remember what the exact groups are, but are there any teams in particular that you could be seeing to cause some upsets coming up? I know Envious are playing, and Complexity, or I'm sure you're not be expecting much from them.
Yeah, I mean, the most interesting group for me, actually, in the whole tournament is next week's group, which is Group E, which is the one that's Na'Vi, Mousesports, Flipside, and who's the 4th one? Let me think. Na'Vi, Mousesports, Flipside, Echo Fox, right, yeah. So, I mean, right there, the battle for second place is wide open there. Like, none of those other teams, in theory, have played Echo Fox. They have no idea what to expect from them. Obviously, Sean Gez is going to study his demos. Blade's Flipside will always be underrated, mainly because they're actually not that good a team. He's just a very good in-game leader. But, I mean, that might be enough to get the odd map off a Mousesports type team. And then, it's true, Na'Vi should certainly win the group. They have the talent and the experience. But then what's crazy is in that group, the best player in the group isn't even on Na'Vi. It's Nico from Mousesports. So I think that can be a potentially very competitive group, and I definitely want to see Na'Vi win and go into the playoffs, because I want to see Na'Vi against Fnatic and Luminosity and, you know, those old rivalries rekindled.